Hi, my name's Jackie Freelander. I'm going to be a senior here at Penn State. My major is public relations. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And today I'm going to be doing my makeup. I love doing makeup. It's a great way to express yourself. I also do have a makeup Instagram. It's jackie.does.makeup. Jackie does makeup on Instagram. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. And I'm also going to tell you about my identity. I identify as bisexual. And like my coming out story and a bunch of stuff like that. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Sarah Beth asked me to do this for you guys, and I figured it would be like a really fun way to provide entertainment, and maybe you'll learn something if you really like makeup, because I've been doing makeup for a very long time. So I'm gonna start off. I've already done my brows and I've prepped my eyes. I'm also going to add tape to my cheekbones just so I can create that like with my shadow, like that crisp line, kind of like painter's tape. So I'm gonna start off my story when I was really young. I would say I knew I was different by the time I turned like 5, because I had an older sister and she did all these feminine things. She loved to wear pink frilly dresses and play with Barbies, and I absolutely hated it. And I just wanted to play with Hot Wheels. I always wanted the boy toy at McDonald's. I wanted to play football. So I knew I was different pretty much prior to kindergarten. So this is what I'm going to be using, the Take Me Back to Brazil palette by BH Cosmetics. It's got a lot of fun colors in it. I'm still deciding actually what I want to do with my face, but it's going to be something fun while I decide. So I would say, yeah, growing up, I was a tomboy. Just I was different from everybody else around like elementary school. All my friends were guys. I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. To this day, I kind of find it harder to connect with other girls than I do with guys. Even just on like a platonic level. So I just have like a more masculine way of presenting myself. I know right now I don't. I'm wearing a Planned Parenthood shirt. I'm doing my makeup, but often I present myself in a very masculine way, wear darker colors, wear baggier clothes, to be honest. So yeah, I would say like even in elementary school, I was a little bit different, but I just considered myself a tomboy. I wasn't even thinking about my sexuality or anything like that until around middle school. So through middle school, I wouldn't necessarily say I was bullied, but I wasn't treated very well. I was picked on by guys a lot. Most for my voice and when I had braces, and people made fun of my appearance a lot because I appeared more masculine than I did feminine, and that made me really insecure. Going through middle school, and it made me not really want to share certain parts of myself with other people. You know, I was afraid of being vulnerable at that age. I'm sure everybody is in middle school. So when I came to terms with my sexuality in, I would say like 8th or 9th grade, I didn't tell a single soul, because I didn't want another reason. Like, I didn't want to give people another reason to pick on me. I felt like I was being picked on enough, and just that, you know, it's not like I was necessarily ashamed, it's that I was still questioning, and I didn't want to have this like big coming out to draw attention to myself. Like, a few other kids in my high school I knew that were queer that had a coming out, that like put on their Instagram and like told everybody, and you know, didn't necessarily tattoo I'm gay on my forehead, but were pretty out I would say in high school, and like good for them. But that's not necessarily something I wanted to do. I just didn't want to draw that type of attention to myself. All right, I think I've decided what I want to do with my face. So right now I'm just putting like a darker shade of purple right here on the outside of my eye and around this tape line. I'm gonna blend it with a few other colors going forward. But this is what the inside of this palette looks like. The mirror's broken because I travel a lot and I broke it, but it's not an expensive palette. You can find it at Ulta if you want it. It's pretty solid. I use it a lot. It's got a good color range. It doesn't really have reds, which can get annoying, but it has like sincerely like every other color. So I kind of started off as bi-curious, I would say, and like experimenting with what that label meant in eighth or ninth grade. Um, I went to I wouldn't say a small school. I went to a high school where there was about 200 people in my graduating class. I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So I went to like a city school. So the dynamic of my school was very different. You know, I didn't go to a Catholic school or anything, but it was a very interesting experience. It's definitely not the same demographics as Penn State. I'll say that. So, but my point was like, if I would have came out, I don't think in high school, I don't think I would have been ridiculed or anything. I don't think, you know, I would have caused a lot of trouble that way because I didn't go to like a private school. But like I said, that's just like not something I was really interested in doing. But I kind of figured out that I was bi, at least, because as I started finding myself, you know, growing in attraction, you know, around puberty or whatever, I found myself, you know, not only being interested in guys, like previously, like in elementary school, I had like crushes on guys or whatever. Um, but I started to find myself more attracted to women. Like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but like Woman Crush Wednesday on like Instagram and stuff. Like I would have a lot of woman crushes, like way more than normal. And I was just like, this can't just be a crush. Like I don't just admire these women, like I kind of like really want to be with these women. So then I kind of came to terms with that, and I told sort of my closer friends by ninth grade and was like, hey, I think this is like the label that I'm gonna go with. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. You know, throughout high school, I only dated guys. I coincidentally, all my prom dates and homecoming dates were girls because I would just take my friends if I wasn't dating anybody. But I never had a relationship with a girl, and to this day I haven't. But I don't think that invalidates my sexuality. Like, I know a lot of straight people who haven't had girlfriends or boyfriends, but they're still straight. But to me, sometimes I can have this like imposter syndrome where I feel like I'm not necessarily bi because I've never been in a homosexual relationship. Like I've only dated guys, but you know, it's a lot harder to find girls to date, obviously, because it's a lot harder to find people who are queer than people who are straight. So, but I'm very much bisexual. I've come to terms with that. That is my label that I have decided for myself. So yeah, through high school, again, like I said, I didn't really come out. I told a few people, I'd say like my best friends. I didn't even tell my like boyfriends in high school. I just kind of kept it to myself because, like I said, like I didn't really want to stir the pot. These were people that like I had grown up with my entire lives. I just, because I went to a very like a smaller school. Everyone knew each other, and I didn't want guys in my school to think I was no longer attracted to them, because I feel like when you're 15, 16, you don't really understand fluidity. You don't understand that like you can like both. People just think in black and white, gay or straight, boy or girl. Like there's no in between. So I just kept it quiet because I didn't want girls, like the few girlfriends that the few friends that I had that were girls, to like think I was weird, and be like, I don't want to hang out with you anymore because you might have a crush on me. But just like you, if you're a straight girl, you don't have a crush on every single guy. I don't have a crush on every single girl. That's not how it works. There are preferences, but you know, when people are really young, they don't really think like that. They're kind of more selfish and smaller thinkers. So I was just like, I'm gonna keep this to myself. I don't want to cause trouble. I just told my friends, and I grew up in the music department. Like I played violin, and I had a bunch of friends who were in musicals, and you know what that's code for. I had a lot of queer friends, so most of my friends obviously were understanding and belonged to the community as well. So that's where I came out to them, and I didn't come out to anybody else, and we were all keeping each other's secrets, because some people's parents were approving, some people's weren't, and a lot of parents at my school talked to each other and eavesdropped on kids and stuff like that. So I didn't tell my parents until I went to college, and I didn't really tell my mom at all because she's said some homophobic stuff before, and like I don't want to start drama with her. She has bipolar disorder, so it can be really difficult when I visit her. But basically I came out to my dad in college when I was like FaceTiming him freshman year, and there was a bi pride flag in my room, and he was like, well, what's that? And I was like, oh, it's the bi pride flag. He was like, oh, okay. Like, that was the end of it. Because we grew up, like, throwing football with each other. Like, he would order a boy toy for me at McDonald's. Like, he knew that I wasn't normal. I think he just wanted me to be happy, which is what's really important. I'm very lucky that I have a parent that feels that way. My mom, she's called me slurs before. Even before I came out to her. I'm assuming she just kind of already knew that I wasn't straight, but so that's why I didn't really want to come out to her. And I've heard her say, like, yeah, I like gay people, but I wouldn't want my child to be gay, or, oh, I don't really understand trans people. I'm just happy you guys are cis and stuff like that. And I'm just like, that's not really tolerant at all. So I really just don't want to like stir the pot with her, to be quite honest. So I never really came out to her, but I would say it would have to be a new conversation if I ever started dating a woman and brought her home to meet my parents. Because even when I would bring a guy home to my mom, she would ask a million questions. Like, what does he do for a living? How old is he? What does he look like? Blah, 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 blah. So, like, even if I brought a girl home, it would be a whole nother situation. Okay, so I'm going to take these off. Blended, like, 3 colors in. I think that looks pretty nice. Dope. Okay. Alrighty. So that's pretty much my story through high school. My advice would be, don't feel pressured to come out if you don't want to. Coming out is something that you don't do once, you do it multiple times throughout your life, because every time you're in a new situation, you're in a new environment, you have to come out again. You know, like, this isn't a label that people automatically can see when they look at you. Like, if you are black, people look at you and obviously know you are black. But if you are queer, if you're trans, if you're gay, if you're bi, if you're any part of the LGBT community, you know, it's not as obvious, which has its advantages and its disadvantages, to be honest, because, you know, I can act as a straight person if I need to for my own safety in certain situations, which is good. But at the same time, it's also like you have to do this coming out thing in almost every new environment, and that can get very tiring. It can be fun the first couple of times, but then you get the same questions and the same comments, and it can just get very exhausting, to say the least. Just figuring out what color I want to do. Okay. So in college, I essentially came out to everybody I knew. I made it a point to let all the friends know that I made in college that I was queer. You know, I was starting over. I was coming to a school where I knew little to no one. There's like 40,000 kids at University Park, and I just wanted to be my most authentic self, because if someone couldn't love me for who I am, somebody else will. There's just so many people here, and there's a really large queer community here, which I'm really grateful for. I felt right at home right away. I'm also Jewish, and there's a really large Jewish community here as well. So I would encourage you that if you do go to college, to be yourself and to not waste any time being someone you don't want to be, because your college friends are going to mean a lot to you. They're going to get you through some of the worst times that you go through, like this freaking pandemic. I relied on my college friends so much. So you want to be authentic and true to yourself. I kind of realized I was doing like the bi pride colors on my face. I got the purple, the blue, and the pink. And the bi pride flag, if you didn't know, is like blue, pink, and then purple in the middle. And it's like blue represents your attraction to people who identify as male. Pink is your attraction to people who identify as female, and like the purple is where you are because you're attracted to both. So by the time I got to college, I would say I was pretty confident in who I was. I had reclaimed the more feminine parts of my gender, I would say. I can comfortably wear pink now. Before, like, you could not see me in pink ever. I started doing my makeup pretty heavily in college as well. It was just something I could do to pass the time. It's something I really got into later in high school. This is a pretty feminine act that I'm doing right now. And you wouldn't catch me doing it earlier in my life because I wasn't really at terms with my femininity. But now I've owned it. Like, I'm female. I know I'm female. I know I'm cis. I just know I'm also a very masculine person as well. I don't really like the term ma'am. I don't like miss at all. I'm like a sir. Like, I feel really masculine sometimes. And some of those terms don't really fit with me, and I'm still thinking about it, but I'm pretty confident that my pronouns are also still she, her. So as I started coming out to my friends in college, I got a lot of questions about, like, how did you know? What was it like coming out? And a bunch of other stuff. And I found it to be very inspiring because people were asking about me, and not in a rude way, but because they were curious about their own sexuality. So I made it a point to come out to people as soon as I could, as soon as it was appropriate. You don't want to just walk to somebody like, hey, my name's Jackie, I'm gay. It's kind of weird, but some people are like that. Because, you know, being queer is only part of my identity. I'm also a musician. I'm also really into punk rock. I'm also, you know, a student, a Jewish woman, a bunch of other stuff. You know, I grew up in the city. That makes me a little bit different than some other people around. So I make it's part of my identity, and I do want to let people know. But like I said, it's been really nice because I've helped other people come to terms with their sexuality who didn't really know. They knew they weren't straight, but I was able to walk them through their own identity crisis, which a lot of people do go through in college, is an identity crisis. But so that's why I wanted to come out to people in college as well, because it's good to be the queer friend and to answer people's questions and to help people. I think helping people is really important. And that's why I do stuff like this, talk to you guys about how I knew I was queer and stuff like that. Just so, you know what to look for. You can think about advice. If someone ever came out to you, what you would say to them. Just like, I am your friend. I'm here for you. If you need any support, I'm there for you. I'm happy that you came to me with this secret, because it can be a secret to people. Some people are not comfortable sharing their business like that. I know I wasn't in high school. So that would be like necessarily my advice, is that, you know, treat your friend with respect and understand that they're still a person and they're still that same person that you know. But it took them a lot of courage to come out to you and to acknowledge that, that it can be really difficult for queer people in general in this country. I mean, we just got the right to marry like 6 years ago. So yeah, that's what I would say. But I think some of the more annoying things that happened in college are like the fetishizing of queer women. Because often queer women, if a queer woman tells a guy that she's queer, it's like, oh, have you ever kissed a girl? Have you ever had a three-way, blah, 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 blah. And like, they want to use your sexuality to their benefit, and that can be really frustrating. Like, especially in a party setting, if I would to tell a guy I was queer, he'd be like, oh yeah, so are you down for a three-way? Like, no. Just because I'm bisexual doesn't mean I'm sexually promiscuous, by the way. That's not what that means. It means that I'm attracted to both genders. You know, I love women. I don't just want to have sex with women, just like I love men. And I just find that to be super frustrating. So if anyone ever comes out to you, don't do that. That's really annoying and not nice to tell to people. But like I said, something else that I've really struggled with in college is just like navigating talking to queer women. I have a fear of rejection. I don't think I'd be a very good guy because I'm afraid to talk to women. Like, I'll talk to guys. Guys are easy to talk to. I'm so scared to talk to girls. Like, I won't do it. Like, it's so hard for me to find girlfriends. That's why I joined Greek life. I'm in a sorority. So now I have a bunch of friends that are girls. But, like, girls are scary. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm so scared of being judged. And some women can be very judgy. But I just need to tell myself, like, if you hit on a girl and she's not queer, what's the worst thing she can say? No. Like, she's not gonna scream at you and call you weirdo and, you know, like, burn down your house or anything. Like, this isn't 1852. But there is a queer bar in Penn State called Chumley's, and I have not been, and I would love to go. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, so this is what I'm doing. My lashes, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but you just kind of glue them to the top of your eyes. I think they complete any look. I love lashes. So I would say as I rushed Greek life, I also had to go kind of back into the closet a little because I was in a ultra feminine state. Like, I'm surrounded by girls for an entire 2 weeks. The sorority rush process is very rigorous. You have to visit every single sorority at Penn State, and there's 17 of them. So it can go all day for like 3 days straight, like from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. You're just talking to other women, and it can get very exhausting. And it's not really something that I wanted to tell these people that I were meeting for the first time, because I think there's more important parts about myself, like what I want to do with my life and what I'm involved in. And, there's other ways I can connect with women in Greek life. And I just didn't want that thing of like, oh, we don't want a queer woman in our sorority, like she might hit on members or stuff like that. So I did not tell anybody. I did come out after I was accepted to Alpha Delta Pi. I am the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for Alpha Delta Pi here at Penn State, and I have a really good time doing that. I get to educate my sisters about all things, diversity, equity, and inclusion related, and I think it's really important to me because I grew up in the third most diverse high school in Pennsylvania. So, I came to Penn State and I was very shocked by how many white people there were because my school was like 40% Black. And there's like a lot of people who just like grew up in high schools where they just didn't know people of color. They didn't know queer people, and they don't know how to act and behave around queer people, and they don't know what's appropriate and what's inappropriate. So I've been doing a lot of educating, a lot of coalition building with my sorority, and I've also been like the queer girl that people talk to if they don't know if they're straight or not, which I don't mind playing that role. I like helping people find out who they are. I think that's a very important part of my role of being an out individual, is to help people with their own identity, because it can be very difficult. We're lucky to have grown up in an age of the internet. You can basically Google like, why do I feel this way? A lot of older generations did not have the internet, and they didn't know what they are, and it was very confusing and scary. And we're lucky to have this thing we call the internet where we can look up things and learn very quickly. I know I was a Tumblr kid, so I knew I was queer right away. I knew what that was because I was on Tumblr. But anyways, I came out in my sorority as I joined this position, because I was like, I want everyone to know that I'm queer, and that's why I'm in this position. I'm queer and I'm Jewish, and that's what makes me qualified to be in this position. And no one really had a problem with it. I mean, I know there are some people on the right who don't agree with those views in my sorority, but they're never going to say anything to me about it, because I hold a position of power, and, I really don't care if you don't agree with my lifestyle. It's really none of your business. But that being said, Penn State has been a very welcoming community overall. The only incidents I've had that were, I would say, discriminatory would be at frat houses, which is not surprising. I was called like a predator once at a frat house because I'm attracted to women, and they're like, we don't want you here. We don't want you using the girls' bathroom. A lot of weird crap. I went to the school about it. They really didn't do much. They were just like, oh, well, if you want to talk to the chapter president, that's fine. I was like, you know what? Like, if they don't want me there, I'll go somewhere else. And now I'm 21, so it really doesn't matter. But just so you know, there are those type of people out there who can be intolerant, even in college. But overall, Penn State is a really good place to be. There's a lot of other queer students here. Our LGBTQ resources are very, very well funded, and I've never really felt unsafe on campus. I've always felt like I belonged somewhere. So I'm gonna finish up my makeup here. I don't know if I have anything else to say. I definitely, makeup wise, I would put primer on, foundation, highlighter, contour, all that fun stuff. But I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a look of the final product here. And thanks for listening to me ramble. If you want to see more videos and obviously shorter makeup tutorials, they would be on my page. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good summer.